Hello, duelist Pokemon fans and aliens. We are looking at my updated Shaddoll Hero deck, if you weren't sure what it is. Now, probably one of the first things you'll notice is the extra deck. I've actually took out Masked Hero Acid, one Crystal, and I've added Black Rose Dragon and some XYZs. Now, as well as that, I've actually added in a second Needlebug Nest and 2 Needle Ceilings. Now, the reason why I have Needle Ceilings in the deck is because they're good for clearing a board. Plus, they can destroy my face-up Shaddoll monsters to get their effect for being sent to the graveyard by a card effect. So it helps with resetting Falcons, beasts, things like that. And other than that, there's not too much different. I did take out a Mass Change second. I took out one Veiler. I took out Fencing Fire Ferret. I added 2 MSTs because well, the main reason why I wanted to add 2 MST was just to help get rid of more back row. I also took out 1 AD changer, and I actually added in this little puppy, the Outstanding Dog Maron. And as you saw in my previous video, if you watched it, you would know that Maron likes to shuffle itself back into the deck. So it's actually reusable as a target for my Nephilim. It just shuffles itself back into the deck after you use it, so you can use it all over again. Now, other than this, I have some cards I'm thinking of trying, and I'm actually going to show you guys, and if you have an opinion on it, let me know in the comments section. I've said this before, but I don't want to use stuff like Curie Bandit and Light Sworns, stuff like that. I honestly don't think they're that good. I think more of a controlled mill style is better, but that's just my personal opinion. So, yeah. Anyway, getting back into what I was thinking. One thing I was thinking about testing out is Creature Swap. I was thinking about testing out Creature Swap in the deck. Maybe swapping one of my fusions and flipping a Super Poly, possibly. Other than that, something else I was actually thinking about was using a Potted Dichotomy. Now, the reason for Potted Dichotomy is because I do run AD Changer, I do run Volcanic Shell, and I have the Spellcasters, and also Nephilim, Crystal, and Darklaw are all 3 different attribute cards, as well as my entire extra deck is not Spellcasters, except for the 3 Midrush. So, it would definitely help with shuffling back cards. And actually, one other card I was... Speaking of shuffling back cards, one other card is Exodius, the Ultimate Forbidden Lord. Now, I'm thinking of running one of him, and the reason for this is because you do run out of Shaddoll monsters quite fast. I've been having trouble with running out of Shaddoll monsters in the deck, and it leads me to lose the game. And so I feel having 1 or 2 of this guy to shuffle all of your used Shaddolls and used fusions and all that back into your deck is pretty nice. Along with that, there's not very many I was thinking about, but one thing I was thinking about is Magician of Faith. Now, Magician of Faith isn't commonly seen. She's not very commonly used either. She used to be very abused, but you have to flip her, and your opponent, and like after the first use, your opponent's just going to basically be able to see you adding her back or summoning her and face down defense. So it's not really going to be, I won't say beneficial, but it's not, I mean, it can still be beneficial, but it's just slower than the current metagame. Now, I may not use her, and I probably won't. The only reason I'd use her would be to add back super polys. But she is a light target, so I thought about it. But I'm probably not going to wind up using her. I am going to keep the 280 changers. I'm not going to change them out. The reason why I cut Valor down to 2 is because I actually haven't been using it that much. If you watched my videos, you will know that I usually didn't have a chance to activate Valor, where it would have been a good choice. Like, I had options to activate Valor, but I think only one of my games actually had me really using Valor, or having Valor when it was a good chance to activate it. Also, I'm not running more than 2 Needlebug Nest. The only reason I'm running Needlebug Nest is because with the Fusion's ability to add back your Shaddoll spells or traps, it really doesn't matter that much. Also, hold on. One other thing I'm thinking of using is Shaddoll Roots. The reason I'm currently not using it is because it honestly seems a little slow for the deck I'm trying to build, but I'm thinking of maybe using it. The only real issue with it is you can't use it as a fusion material while it's in your hand. You have to set it for an entire turn and activate it. But it is good for sending off of things such as Nephilim to add back your fusions. However, if you watched my duels, you will know that I really don't have an issue getting fusions back. The only real issue I ever wind up having is actually getting the fusions to my hand sometimes can be a pain. So I'm probably not going to wind up using Shaddoll Roots. It was just something I wanted your guys' opinion on. Now, something else was Shadow Snare. Whenever Shaddolls first came out, I did use this at 2. It wasn't something I particularly needed, but it allowed me to use super polymerization without having to have super polymerization in the deck. But because if you don't know what it does, it actually allows you to remove 3 counters, and it basically becomes a super polymerization. You can use one face-up monster your opponent controls as a fusion material for your summon. So it's not a bad card. It drops your opponent's attack by 100, and it gains counters for each time a Shaddoll monster is sent to the graveyard by a card effect. But once again, it's the same reason for Shaddoll Roots. It's quite slow, and while I don't have the speediest deck, because I try to mix a bit of a control factor with a speed factor, that'd be why I have 2 Needlebug's Nest and 2 Fallen Shadow. Yet I also have the Needle Ceilings, the Super Polys, and the Mask Changes, along with the Valors. Now, it's not necessarily a bad, like I said, it's not a bad card. It's just the issue of speed. Like, it really wouldn't be dead in the deck, because you can get counters on it a lot, but it has no way to protect itself. So if you really depend on it, you need stuff like Dark Bribes and Field Barriers. You'll also notice I took out the Cursed Figs, and the reason for that is mainly because I took out Acid, and they really weren't doing that much I actually will probably reinsert the two of them if we do get the water attribute one. If we do get a water attribute Shaddoll monster later, the having the volcanic shell is actually very nice. I rather like having the 3 volcanic shells because it allows for discard fodder for super polymerization and mass change, as well as off the effect of Shaddoll Beast, as well as Maron. So the volcanic shells work out pretty well. They're also good for Gristall. And you're not always going to get Gristall out onto the field if you only have Super Volley. And since it's actually a very good card, I rather like having the volcanic shells in the deck just so I can make it against any deck. I don't have to depend on my opponent having some sort of fire type monster or fire type XYZ in their deck to be able to summon Gristall. So that's the reason for Gristall. Also, Midrosh and Nephilim, I really liked the two of them. Midrosh was the first one I saw, and the moment I saw Midrosh, I immediately fell in love with the entire archetype. Just looking at Midrosh and reading its entire effect, I was so happy to see a fusion deck that looks like it could be powerful that I flipped out. If you ask any of my friends, I couldn't stop talking about Shaddolls to them, and they actually got really annoyed with me. But I'm really glad we got Gristall. Gristall, I feel, was something the deck needed, other than Midrosh. If you have Midrosh and Gristall on the field, your opponent's going to have some issues. If you get Midrosh, Gristall, and Nephilim on the field, most of my opponents kind of just quit or cry. Either one. Anyway, the main ones I'm thinking of are Creature Swap, Dichotomy, and Forbidden Lord. I want to hear your opinions on Shaddoll Roots and Magician of Faith. So, also, I'm not going to put Shadow's Snare in. Now, there was one last card, and the card is... Let me see. What was it? It was some dark monster. No, it wasn't a dark monster. What was it? Oh, I remember. Actually, no, I'm not going to use that. Probably. If you're wondering why this deck doesn't have BLS, it's because BLS is a good card. I just honestly don't like it that much. Like, I feel the effect of BLS is a little overhyped. And I don't like it because most of the time I get it, it winds up dead. So, I mean, I know the deck has incredible dump power, but if your opponent knows what you're playing, they very well may not summon anything from the extra deck. Oh, also, I forgot. If you're wondering about Creature Swap and Shaddoll Fusion, if you give them one of your fusion monsters or XYZs or your Synchro, then you will not be able to use Shaddoll's effect to send cards from your main deck, because, or should you? I don't know, maybe I just didn't have any more Shaddolls in the main deck. Anyway, this is the deck. I'd like your opinion on Shaddoll Roots and Magician of Faith and the entire deck overall. And I'm going to see where if these 3 cards get put in. I'm probably going to wind up putting in Exodius, even if it makes the deck 41. So, I guess I'll see you guys later, and I hope you like the deck profile.